It's Wellness time! What's going on, people? Happy today, happy. Have a great life. I hope you are happy. Wellness nerd out time. So today what I want to talk about is psoriasis. Now this was per request. We don't say who the requests are for. This one is for you though, young lady. You know who you are. I'll see you soon. Probably tomorrow or something. I don't know. So what is psoriasis? It's a chronic inflammatory autoimmune disease where our body produces excessive amounts of skin cells. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll get to you in a second here. And it presents with these thick, silver-scaled, red, dry patches or rashes of skin. Right? And we commonly find them on the scalp, the face, the elbows, the palms, the knees, or the feet. You know, most commonly. Albeit you can find them in other places as well. So it affects generally about 2 to 3% of the world's population. So it is considered a very common disease. That is common as far as diseases go, right? And the cause is unknown, and they don't have really a set cure and with great efficacy for psoriasis. They pretty much just treat the symptoms, things like that, you know, typical per Western medicine, right? So, and we should say also, I wanted to say, the symptoms of psoriasis, they kind of wax and wane over time, okay? And it lasts for some time. So what is the standard first-line medical treatment for psoriasis? What do they give these people? Well, typically they start with a topical cream. That cream is either going to contain moisturizers or it's going to have steroids in it. So why do they use steroids for diseases in general? That's probably a good question. Maybe you were curious. Well, they reduce inflammation and they reduce the immune response. So it makes sense that something that's an autoimmune inflammatory disease, they probably show some decent efficacy for in terms of reducing symptoms at least, right? So that's what they do first, the topical treatment. Now, after that, they'll move to either oral or injected medications, typically immunosuppressants, right? It makes sense. It's an autoimmune condition. Or they'll even go to phototherapy. So a lot of skin conditions where they expose you to different wavelengths of light, if you didn't know what that was. We always explain it here at Wellness. That's something typical, relatively, of skin diseases, things like that, some UV form of treatment, right? At least at some line there. So what do we have for natural supplements for psoriasis? Are there any that show great efficacy? Are there any that, are out there and people take and they maybe don't work? Well, here's the truth. We don't have any standalone natural supplements that can really totally effectively reduce the symptoms of psoriasis. There are, a lot of positive anecdotes with the ones we're about to mention, and two, there are a few trials at least that show a major benefit in reducing symptoms of psoriasis with these supplements. Now, having said that, it's really just preliminary evidence and the results are relatively mixed. So we can't say, again, this should be any sort of first-line treatment or anything like that. But maybe it can't hurt to take them if you have psoriasis. So what do we got? We have probiotics, selenium, vitamin D, and fish oil. Those are our four. Those are our top 4 supplements. Vitamin D, fish oil, selenium, probiotics, if you have psoriasis. So, they're all great for you anyway, right? So maybe consider getting more of them through the diet. You don't maybe eat more fish, right? Selenium's in Brazil nuts is a natural high source. I think it's like 3 Brazil nuts of daily value. And selenium functions as an antioxidant, right? We've devoted a whole day to selenium. Probiotics, gut bacteria, it's obviously great stuff, and vitamin D is vitamin D. Bone health, immunity, testosterone, skin health, you betcha. So if skin health's up there, it makes sense that vitamin D is also on that list, right? So you know all the benefits of fish oil, well, at least most of them. Great for your brain, great for your skin, great for your heart, great for a lot, right? Burning fat, great for people that have had traumatic brain injury, right, as well. So what do we got for diet before we get off on a When Wellness rant here, because we're really excited about all this shit. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll get to you in a second. In terms of diet, well, here's something very interesting that at least I thought was very interesting. The vast majority of people with psoriasis lack foods that we find in the Mediterranean diet. So we're talking things like fish, fruits, nuts, right? Olives, stuff, whole grains, right? Stuff like that we find in the Mediterranean diet. Again, people with psoriasis generally lack in their diet. So maybe get more of those foods as well. Look up the Mediterranean diet, maybe try following it for a little bit. It's also good for reducing the symptoms of mild to moderate depression is the Mediterranean diet. It showed a pretty strong efficacy for doing that, actually. So, that's just another reason you take it. Those foods promote longevity for the most part. They contain a lot of healthy fats and yada yada. Obviously not talking whole grains, source of carbs, but then you get healthy fiber, right? The people living in the Mediterranean, I think they relatively have it figured out as far as diet goes, and relaxing as they have a siesta all the time, which is pretty freaking cool. We could use that in the U.S., take a nap at whatever, 4 o'clock every day. It's awesome. So what else do we got for diet? With psoriasis, well, some studies have shown great reduction in the symptoms of psoriasis in obese people that reduce their calorie intake. Well, a hypocaloric diet, meaning a low-calorie diet, for obese people is going to be pretty much good for anything, right? And I'm sure psoriasis is probably on the bottom of their list in terms of their issues, right? Problems with health parameters. So, something to keep in mind. If you're overweight and you have psoriasis, try reducing your calorie intake. Maybe eat some more foods from the Mediterranean diet. Maybe try out some vitamin D, some selenium, some probiotics, some fish oil. Right. So, lastly, they've shown that people with gluten sensitivity. We're so used to saying insulin sensitivity. People with gluten sensitivity that have psoriasis, when they reduce their gluten intake, also reduce their symptoms of psoriasis. So, again, that would probably bode well for anyone with gluten sensitivity to reduce their gluten intake, right? But, some of it's common sense, some of it's not. What is the fact that we don't have a full cure. They don't know what causes it. Like, as is the case for probably most autoimmune diseases. They can't understand quite why they happen exactly. There's genetic components, environmental components, lifestyle, diet, everything. But what we do know is we can improve our diet. We can exercise more. Maybe reduce your calorie intake if you're obese. Don't have gluten anymore if you're gluten sensitive. Live naturally. Get sunlight. Eat more fish. Foods from the Mediterranean diet. Our fish, our nuts and seeds, our whole grains, our vegetables, our fruits. They eat a lot of salad, right? Which you put extra virgin olive oil on to help you absorb the compounds in the greens to a greater degree. So, hell yeah, I can't even see who wrote that, but I can see like a Caps nerd out time. We're going to get to you guys in a second. By a second, I mean right now, because that's all we got for you today. I hope you got something out of it. Let's say hi to the homies. Davian and Joe and Lou. 3 guys. How you doing? What's going on? More Jesse. We need more Jesse in our lives. Mano Salva, how you doing? Objective Observer. What's going on? Yes, well, there's nerd out time. Yeah. I love it. It's awesome. Love the enthusiasm. More Jesse's still there. There's more of them. Peter Sarek, how you doing, my friend? Thank you for hopping on. I hope you got something out of this. Superlink 53, what's up? Kyle Lorenzo, how you doing? Junior Gennaro Alvarez, what's going on? Junior Guerrero, now fan 95, how you doing? Any brand in specific of what? The king of hydrogen. What are you referring to? I'll look down in a second. Baked Joy, and the answer is probably no. Baked Joy Jillian. But we do look for standardized things, right? Things standardized for compounds and whatnot, things like that. Allie Randall, how you doing? Hot since 89, my man Malcolm, always on here. What's up, dude? You're the man. They're all diamond, 18. Expensive taste. Kyla Bliss, what's up, Kyla? Cessa Torres, 89. Tula is absolutely adorable. Zach's not. He is. He's a handsome lad. I'm just kidding. I love you, Zach. I'm sorry. Jamie Lee, how you doing? Hello from California, the king of hydrogen. Well, hello from Long Island, New York. RM Lax 33. Ethan Broitman. What's up, Ethan? How you doing? You guys, I hope you're having a fantastic night. 01 Dogs, how you doing? The king of hydrogen. The name's Ariel. Okay. Nice to meet you, Ariel. So, more Jesse. For the supplements, Ariel, David Creed, how you doing? Brands in terms of the supplements. Well, good question there. When we're talking about fish oil, you want something that has a high DHA content. Look for the one that has more DHA. They're pretty hard to find. You know, typically the cheaper ones are just loaded up with EPA. But look for one that's higher in DHA. You can even take a pure DHA supplement alongside it, right? So, fish oil. Let's see what else we got. In terms of probiotics, well, you can get them in many ways. You know, you can get them from kefir, natto, tempeh, miso, sauerkraut, right? All that kind of stuff. Personally, I like kefir the best. So that's me. It's like a sour yogurt milkshake kind of drink. Doesn't taste like a milkshake. Doesn't taste phenomenal, but it's freaking great for you. So have some. Don't get the one with added sugar. Okay, that's my advice to you. Selenium, eat 3 Brazil nuts a day. Done with selenium. What else was I going to tell you? Vitamin D, get more sunlight. And, you know, you have vitamin D in eggs as a cheap, simple source. You know, you're asking of sourcing, you know, aside from fish and meats and nuts and whatever. I think eggs are pretty good in terms of, you know, bang for your buck, and they also have so many other vitamins. But you got to eat the yolk. You got to make sure you're eating the yolk. And the big one is try to get more sunlight. And you know what? The thing with vitamin D is like, you get it in a bunch of foods, but just take a vitamin D supplement because it's hard to get too much of it. I shouldn't say that. They say 100 micrograms a day is totally safe according to the FDA. So go for something that has, you know, 50 micrograms is a great dose. I mean, that's definitely going to suffice. Even if you're somebody who's relatively deficient, you know, which people are greater risk for deficiency. Ariel, I don't know your demographic. I didn't look at your page. Are the elderly and, you know, African Americans, people with darker skin in general, it takes more sunlight to produce the same amount of vitamin D. I look so tired. I'm sorry, you guys. I had a long day at work. But we're always getting it in here. You know, it doesn't matter. Is going for a walk every day beneficial? David, absolutely. For psoriasis or just in general? Objective observer. Can I say, it's Wet Wellness time! There you go. How's that? I didn't say nerd out our workout, but that's usually what we say. That was a request to say that. I didn't just yell that. MV Dillard, how you doing? Mr. Q Love. So, is it good to go for a walk every day? Yeah, just in general. David, absolutely. Going for a walk, let's talk calories first. You burn like 2.5 times the amount of calories running as you do as walking. Not even 2.5. It's like anywhere from 2 to 2.5. So the point is, walking does a lot. Like, you know, say it was 2 times, right? And you would run 2 miles. You walk 4. Is that bad? No, really not. Run a mile, walk 2, right? Or you know, 2.5. If we say, you know, whatever. So, you know, I mean, that's one good thing. The benefits for your spine are phenomenal when it comes to walking. Being a chiropractor, that's, you know, where my mind tends towards. And the reason is it promotes something called imbibition. So imbibition is defined as the influx of nutrients and fluids into tissues that are otherwise avascular. Okay, so that's happening while you're sleeping. That's also because your spine is lengthening, right? You always say you get a little taller when you sleep. You measure yourself, right? When you wake up, you might be a half inch taller, whatever. That's the whole thing. But it happens with mechanical stimulation, right? So something like walking is pumping the spine, the vertebra, up and down, right? So what's between the vertebra? The discs, the nerves, whole bunch of other stuff, right? But in simple. So when you're pumping blood into those fancy jelly-filled donuts that are those cushions that are between the bones, well, that typically bodes well for preserving their thickness, their height, slowing the onset of degeneration, right? So walking is a great thing. And guess what else? You can get your vitamin D also if you go for a walk during the daytime. So, Ooh, David, good question. What if I'm in a caloric deficit and strength training, but still not seeing weight loss? You want to know the worst way to measure your progress with exercising? Weight loss. I have worked out with people that I almost never weigh myself one, okay? Not that it's a sin. It's just not the important thing. What's important is how you perform, how you feel, and how you look in terms of judging your progress. Muscle's denser than fat. You heard that since you were 5, right? But you know what? Truly, you put on more muscle mass, you're losing fat, your weight might stay the same for a little while. Now, my best advice to you, if you want to quickly shed some weight, or shed some fat rather, I think is a better way for us to say, because I'm pretty sure that's your goal, it seems like, right? Shed fat, build muscle, yeah, that's got to be it. Is to intermittent fast. So if you could fast, stop eating 4 hours before bed, sleep 8 hours, because that's also huge for muscle growth. You sleep 5 hours, your muscle growth reduces by up to 50% from a workout, like it's freaking nuts. 5 hours of sleep, testosterone's down 15%, study out of Harvard, right? Every hour after that, another 15%. So obviously sleep's massive for muscle growth and burning fat. You have more active lipolytic enzymes the next day. You produce more growth hormone, more testosterone when you're getting a lot of good sleep, right? So that's a really important thing for you. And you're going to not eat 4 hours before bed, sleep 8 hours, not eat 4 hours after you wake up. That's a 16-hour fast. That's how we're going to start. Okay? And what you're going to do is work out in a fasted state at the end of the fast, if you can. You could also work out in the beginning, whatever. But working out in a fasted state burns a lot more calories. Now, Shane, how the hell am I going to preserve muscle not eating for a bajillion hours? This is the cheat code. You're going to take BCAAs right before you work out. Why? How much? Recommendations on BCAAs are typically like 6 grams, 5 grams. Fuck that. You're going to buy isolated leucine, L-leucine, L-isoleucine, L-valine. You're going to take them in a 2-to-1-to-1 ratio, leucine to the other 2. So double the amount of leucine. We love leucine. It's the big one. It's the most important amino acid in terms of muscle protein synthesis, aka building muscle. Right? So you're going to take it within like 15 minutes before the workout. About 20 grams if you're really trying to put on muscle. I would take 10 grams of leucine and I would take 5 grams of each of the other. So why is this 20 grams going to build my muscles huge? It's more about not breaking down muscle during the workout, not going into your amino acid stores, because if you worked out in a fasted state, most research says 3 to 6 hours before the workout, if you haven't eaten, you will start to delve into amino acid stores when you're through glucose. Wait, Shane, what happened to fat? That's the order we break stuff down. It goes sugar, fat, protein. That is 100% correct, just not in the absence of oxygen. Just not when you're doing something high intensity. Because what is required to burn fat? And this is why they say aerobic exercise burns fat at the time. Oxygen. Beta oxidation occurring in the mitochondria requires oxygen to occur. So if you are doing high intensity or even strength training stuff and you go in that gym and you haven't eaten in that time, you're going to start breaking down muscle if you don't have amino acid stores, ample enough amounts so that, you're not losing muscle during the workout, right? So then afterwards, you still have your 8-hour window to eat, right? You're fasting 16, you're eating for 8. Now, next week, you're going to add another hour onto the fasting, and you take an hour off the eating window, therefore. Get to the point where you can fast for like 20 hours and eat for 4. And every time, do your workout at the end, but eat a ton of BCAAs. You could even have 30 grams. Go nuts. Just don't get sick before you go in. Second thing, they taste like shit. So I hope you don't care about the taste, you just care about the effect. That's how I am. It's not going to be like that for the supplement we're developing, which we'll talk about all the time. But it's coming out soon. Get excited. But for naturally enhancing mental and physical performance. But it's definitely something to consider if you want to build some muscle and you want to burn some fat. That's maybe not a bad thing to try. Thank you, Marcus Rose Fashion. Very sweet of you. Wrath of Knob, how you doing? I hope that was helpful, by the way. MMAO, how you doing? F4RW. Grime Rose. So David, I hope that said something good for you. I don't even know if you're still here. But you guys have a great rest of your night. I gotta go cook some salmon, like 8 eggs, eat a pack of blueberries, and drink a bunch of water, and just live well. Wendwell. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. What's up, Roy? See you later.